TEDx Charleston is once again gathering some of the best visionaries here in the Lowcountry to share their untold stories. Today, I talk one-on-one with the organizer of this event, Mike Sottak, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Mike Sottak, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Great, always great to be with you, Quintin.
I appreciate it greatly. Needless to say, you are the event organizer for the famous TEDx Charleston, which is coming up here in the next week or so. And of course, TEDx obviously is a local gathering where live TEDx-like talks and performances are shared within the community by movers and shakers. So tell me, Mike, what's new, what's now with TEDx Charleston this year?
Yeah, well, this is our 10th show, so we've been doing it for quite some time. We think we got the formula down, but it really comes down to the speakers and the performers. Every year we go out and really canvass the whole community to find the best and the brightest, people with really inspiring, interesting ideas to share. That's the whole mantra of TED, right? Ideas worth spreading. So this year we've got a new cohort of people, and they're a very diverse group talking about a wide range of topics that, you know, the secret is they got to be able to compel you and inspire you in 10 minutes. And we think we've got a good group of people here talking about just a whole bunch of different topics. So, you know, I think people come for the afternoon and walk away inspired and hopefully spreading, you know, some of these ideas.
And what ideas should be spread right now when it comes to the Charleston community?
Well, you know, it's funny. Our theme this year is uncharted, as in, you know, we all sometimes feel like we're in places we've never been before and experiencing things we've never experienced before. You know, every day we wake up and read the news or look at the internet, and it's just, you know, a whole new world out there. So, you know, particularly when it comes to things like the media, your line of work, and information and trying to distill truth, but things like, you know, mental wellness, social issues, AI is a big topic this year, how that affects work and life in general. So, you know, we try to be timely. We try to be relevant in terms of the topics we bring to stage, but also add a little bit of a local twist, if only because all these people are from our community.
And as you know, many of them I've had on Quintin's Close-Ups in the past. But let me ask you, how many topics are there in total for this year?
So we have 14 speakers, and then we divide that into two half event sessions. So we start at 12:30, go for a couple hours, take a break, have some entertainment in between, and then go for the second half. So it's 14 different speakers, and honestly, there's some scientists, some medical people, some financial experts, some health people talking about things like cancer detection and how to get a good night's sleep. So it's a range of things that are sometimes very practical and a little bit quirky. Yes. Other times talking about how do you distill the truth from the media and social media. We've got a couple experts talking on that. So, and then we've got life experience. We've got one guy who's talking about his experience rowing a boat across the Atlantic Ocean. So he and his partner entered a competition, and they were in the Atlantic Ocean for 40 days, rowing from England to the Caribbean. And he had never rowed a boat before, never had any athletic experience of that kind. And him and his buddy went out and did it, and they did it in about the 5th fastest time ever. So it's just it's a testament to the people's will and commitment to setting goals. So he translates that into a very life-worthy experience. Not everybody's going to go out and row a boat across the ocean, of course, but the lessons learned from that type of experience.
What lessons have you learned from these speakers that have shared their experiences at TEDx Charleston?
Yeah, you know, that's part of the great experience that I get to have, and our team is working with these people over the last several months to refine their talks and understand their points of view. So, you know, I've learned a lot. I mean, every single speaker brings something different to the table. I've learned a lot about health issues, mental health issues, financial planning types of issues, and just, you know, commitment to a goal and sticking to it. A lot of people talk about that. We've got a local guy named Herb Frazier, who you may know. He's a local journalist here and writer, and he talks about his experience growing up in Charleston in the 60s and then moving away, and the value of travel and the value of interacting with other people and cultures who are very different than your own. And, you know, what you can take away from that in terms of his whole talk is about seeking the truth, and how you seek the truth by talking to people not necessarily that you agree with all the time, but that bring a different point of view to the table. So Yeah, like I said, some of these topics are very kind of more philosophical and spiritual in some ways, while others are more practical. Like how we have a guy talking about the difference between joy and happiness, and a lot of people kind of don't know that there's a difference, and he
Right.
brings that to he says anybody can be happy, money can buy happiness, but it can't necessarily buy joy in a very fulfilling spiritual way in some ways.
And I hate to be redundant with this, Mike, but what is the value of TEDx Charleston?
I think TEDx Charleston is a community event where, for me, every year I'm like, oh man, we live in a very cool community where there's a lot of smart, interesting people with a diverse range of experiences and points of view. So I think it's getting, the 700 or 800 people that come to the live event next week in a room together, hearing things, challenging their existing points of view, and just being exposed to all the great thinking and an action that happens in the low country that we might not come across on a normal day-to-day basis. TEDx is meant to be a platform to hear things you might not ordinarily hear or think or do, and hopefully you take some action away from the afternoon and go and spread the word.
Oh, absolutely. What do you want TEDx Charleston to be exposed to next?
It's a good question. I think we plan well in advance of the next event, so we are almost a year out in terms of when we're planning, which is good and bad. I mean, you have to have the mechanics of it in place, but the world's changing so fast. That's why Uncharted is such a good theme. It's like, we knew we had to talk about AI. We knew we had to talk about news, the media. We knew we had to talk about certain social and mental health issues. So I think the main thing is we have to stay relevant and current and get people who can talk about things that are impacting people in the low country on a daily basis. And they may be things that are specific to the low country, whether it's flooding or development or things like that, or that are more general, mental health, social media, AI. Those are all global topics, but to bring a local point of view to those topics. So I can't tell you what we're going to talk about next year. I can tell you that it will be relevant and connected to some things that are important going on in the world around us.
And with all that's going on around us, and we don't know what's going to happen next, as you just mentioned, but how do you set those goals for 2025?
It's hard. I mean, I think we've been fortunate to build a bit of a following in TEDx Charleston, so people are aware of it and people, crave getting on that stage. So we don't have any shortage of people to select from. We get hundreds of applications when we open that part of the process up. So I think it's on us to pick the most relevant, compelling ones. Part of it is entertainment. We have to entertain people for an afternoon and put on speakers that can keep people's attention and make them think. So it's a continuous refinement. We learn something new every year, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the quality of the people up on the stage. I mean, the mechanics of doing it at the music hall, the production and the promotion, and all that's pretty consistent. It's how do we fill those couple of hours that afternoon with things that people are going to get some value out of. So it's a constant cycle.
Which speaker over the past decade has actually changed and inspired you?
That's interesting. We've had a couple of speakers from the medical community. We get a lot of, obviously have a big medical community here, and my wife had gone through a cancer situation, breast cancer, successfully. She's fine now, but we've had a couple people talk about the impact of cancer, how to deal with it as a family member. So I feel like something like that, for better or for worse, touches everybody. Seems to know someone who's had cancer or a serious disease, and just the mental framework, the mental health part of dealing with a physical ailment that's so severe. So I think there's been a couple speakers over the last year, and we have one this year actually talking about how to detect cancer early on. Not in a super medical way. It's a very layman's type of talk, but doing your homework is so important. So that for me, that personally affected us because it was in our households, and so those are the types of talks that kind of inspire you, but also make you grateful for having a platform like this where you can have access to people like this. And for me personally, I'm lucky because I'm so involved with the event. I stay in contact with all these speakers. Over the last 14 speakers for 10 years. That's a lot of smart, interesting people that you get access to.
What else do you want TEDx to actually get access to with your platform?
Yeah, I want people to, know everybody to know about it and make themselves available should they feel like they need a platform or want a platform like this. And it's not a sales, it's not meant to be a sales pitch. We very strict rules that Big Ted, puts on us in terms of sales pitches, and we can't mention your brand products and things like that. But and most people don't, and when we see that, we flag it and we solve it. But I think what we want, I want people to know that this is a really community-driven thing. It's not just me as the organizer, it's not just us as a team who put it together. We're kind of in the background. We need good ideas worth spreading. That's the whole theme of the event. And, the sub-theme may change over time, but if somebody has something interesting to say and wants a platform, TEDx is a great place to do that.
What sub-themes from the past, Mike, do you want to bring back in the future?
We try not to repeat those themes. So, but I think, every year we kind of come up with a word or theme that could resonate almost any year. Shake It Up or Uncharted is a good one this year. We've had several ones that we possibly could redo, but I think we try to take a temperature of, one, what's going on in the world, how are people generally feeling, and then we kind of look at who our speaker pool looks like and say, okay, we don't ask the speakers, not everybody will even connect directly with that theme specifically. I think they're all talking about issues that generally could be uncharted or could be reemerge was the one we did after COVID, which seemed like an appropriate thing. We're all coming out of our COVID cocoons, right? So, next year, the whole different is going to be an interesting year in general for us in America, and elections and changes and wars and things like that. So, I think probably will if I was going to make a prediction, I would say something maybe a little more changey, because I think next 2025 is going to be a different year than 2024. Clearly, the way things are developing, not just politically, but socially, internationally, economically. The world is such a dynamic place right now, and I think I read somewhere there's more elections going on in the world this year than any other year in history. So there's a lot of change happening. But how's an election in someplace in Africa or someplace in Asia? How does that affect us? Well, maybe we need to do a better job of connecting those types of dots for people because, they are important. Even though we live in a nice little community called Charleston, we're not in a bubble. We're not in a vacuum. We're affected by global things. So, and I think we could do a better job probably of bringing in more global issues and bringing them in a relevant way to Charleston people.
How do you make certain that TedXCharleston is not in a bubble?
Yeah, it's something you have to be conscious of when you're going through the speaker applications, and we do it with an eye toward diversity and relevance, timely, relevant ideas. So it's really on us to make sure we're not repeating ourselves. We're not talking about stuff that's been repeated over and over ad nauseum. So we need to inject freshness and relevance every year to the program. And thankfully, we've been fortunate enough to have a great pool of applicants to pull from every year. So it hasn't been a problem yet. I'm confident that the Low Country will continue to produce interesting people with great ideas and, be making an impact on the world. I mean, we have some fantastic people that, have an impact globally. Scientists who have done incredible research or thinkers that have done some outstanding things, performers who are, I haven't even mentioned some of our performers are, have performed all over the country, all over the world. So we have Zandrina Dunning, who's in charge of our selection of the performers, and she's got such a network of people, and it amazes me the talent here in from a performing art standpoint, musicians and dancers and singers, and that part of our program, I think, is just a whole other energy. It brings a whole level of energy to the show that makes it really world class. I feel like Charleston is such a world class city in so many ways, and this is just like a synopsis of a lot of that world classness coming together.
Oh, absolutely. And, Zandrina is an own radio colleague of mine, so we all know each other very well from the radio. But
yeah,
going back to TEDxCharleston, give me the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, how.
Sure. So it's it's an event. It's a frame of mind, but it's also an event. So that happens April 17th, which is depending on when you're listening to this, next Wednesday. And it happens at 12:30 at the Music Hall. We still have some tickets available, not many. So if you're interested in going, you got to buy a ticket. We'll get you access to the main event. Start at 12:30, goes most of the afternoon, and then we do a little after party across the street at the Share House, which is down that alley where the Children's Museum is, behind the bus depot. So that's just a good opportunity to meet the speakers up close and talk to them, have a little fun and make a full day of it. So, yeah, April 17th, get your tickets at our website, TedXCharleston.org, or call the Music Hall box office, and they can set you up with tickets. And like I said, they're going fast. They'll probably sell out by the end of this week. So I'd act quick.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Mike Sottak with TEDx Charleston, thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you again, Quintin. I love being on the show. I appreciate your support, man.
Oh, you're welcome anytime.